Yeah, I mean, I know it's kind of like, oh shit, it's at max.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's, for me, especially with pits, it's not uncommon.
Okay.
Okay, like, aside from her, I believe I had like 5 other dogs. And within the last 3 or since COVID, that's similar.
Okay.
Okay. Alrighty, so you good to go, Jen?
Oh, I didn't even see him.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. What would you, so, reactivity-wise, let's go back to the fence. And then you saw Ricky last week, of course, right? So on Wednesday. And how did that work for you? What did he help you with?
We weren't able to find too many dogs. We found like one that we kind of got her to sit with, but the person was in their yard and they wanted us to move along because they were bothering their dog.
Yeah.
So there was that, and then there was one that she like didn't even respond to, but they were like kind of further away.
Okay.
And then I think they crossed the other side of the street or something.
Sure. On your normal walks, where you've taken Malachite out and stuff,
Yes.
how does that do?
It's been pretty good. It's kind of the same. She's doing better. If the dog's across the street, she'll kind of look at them, but they won't actually do anything.
Okay.
And then sometimes it's a lot of this, which is still better than before because
Yes.
she's at least seated in one spot whining about it instead
Yes.
of pulling.
Yes.
But yeah, it seems like it's dependent on how close the other dog is and how reactive they are.
Yeah. So on the spectrum of dog reactivity towards humans is almost always the first thing that goes away. Then it's reactivity towards calm dogs. Excited or puppy type energy is in the middle. Then we have other reactive dogs. And then we have set and run-ins with dogs.
Okay.
The other reactive dogs and set and run-ins tend to be end of spectrum, so that's normal.
Okay.
So yes, so when and let me clarify. So when I think reactivity, I think right, but technically this is reactivity. This is his low level. So like percentage-wise, like let's say if you look at the dogs you've passed and all the situations, do you think you're at 40%? Do you think you're at 60%?
As far as how reactive she is?
Either how reactive she is or how many like reactive versus non-reactive situation or in her performance, like what do you think that is?
I think she's closer to, maybe like 60% or
Okay.
even a little lower because she used to lunge and
Sure.
stuff and not even be able to walk by if they were across the road.
Sure.
So the fact that she can do that is an improvement, definitely.
Sure.
I think she's getting better, but it is still, I don't know, kind of like this. Or with the other dog, she was actively jumping and barking
Okay.
because they were so close and so reactive.
And they were reactive?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, that's what I would expect.
Yeah.
Okay? Because let's say if the owner's like, yeah, the dog's across the street, calm as can be, my dog's blowing up, I go, that doesn't sound right.
Right.
That should be one of the first things that goes away.
That is gone.
Okay, so good.
Yeah.
So yeah, so because I'm trying to figure out where she's at behaviorally. So that's normal, because you do have a high intensity reactivity case. Okay. So what we're going to do today is we have some dogs. I'm going to pull them out one at a time to see, to see where her threshold is.
Okay.
So we can really push that. So in the past couple of weeks, have you always stepped aside, or do you, walk or try to walk past dogs?
I have still just stepped aside.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, keep up with that.
Yeah, okay, good.
Yeah, it makes things harder.
I don't feel comfortable walking next to a dog yet.
Yeah, because that's a factor too.
Right.
Because I have another reactivity case, and the owner's like, oh, it's like doesn't seem like it's getting better. So I'm like, well, what are you doing? And then she's like, well, I'm walking past. I'm like, that's why. I'm like,
Okay.
right now we're at stage 1, where she's seated, right? Much easier for you to control.
Right, definitely.
It's just getting them used to like, there's gonna be a dog coming, right? That proximity thing not having to worry about. So okay, cool. Just making sure that we're on the same page with that. I'll grab Bane here.
Okay.
And then sorry with Malachite. You keep her at 75.
Yeah, I already moved it up to 80 though, just based on,
Or you leave it there?
yeah, the fact that she's sat here whining for like 10 minutes. Can I pet the puppy at the end? Can I pet the puppy at the end?
If she's still here, my guy might take her out for a walk.
Oh, man.
Yeah, don't worry about that now.
Okay.
Let me have you go and go down, kind of next to where that square is.
This square?
Yeah.
She's also biting the leash less. It's happened like one other occasion and she gave up like super quick.
Good. It's your progress is not as quick as we'd like it to be, but even like I get really bad with it. Yeah. So now I'm gonna have you. So you got your trainer hold, your grip.
Yep, good grip. Yeah, it's rock solid.
You need to go more center here.
Over here?
Yes, I have space. There you go. That's good right there. Here.
Should I be?
I'm just watching to see where she's at.
Okay. Oh, she got up. Hey.
She's moved me. Let's go down to your 80.
Yeah.
Let's actually go down to 45.
45. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And watch your arm. You have a good grip. Just you always want to be ready to go up, but not like already, because you're already like this.
Already pulling. Yeah, I was like nervous about this too.
Yeah. So here, I want to just point out something. So Bane is deaf. Okay? And you can't hear her. But you see how like he's getting kind of like stimulated here?
Yeah.
He's reading her energy. Obviously she's like, this is how much energy she's giving. Because typically he's pretty like whatever.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I want to give her another tap here. There we go. Wait a moment. Yeah. Wait a moment. So what I want to make you sensitive to is, of course, this whining. And I don't want you to think that higher is always correct.
Okay.
Okay? And you have, I mean, there's so many factors. Yeah? There's the situation, there's where you are. There's also like here we can experiment a bit more because this is completely controlled.
Right.
So this is the nice thing about being here versus,
In the park with random
but
dogs,
you
yeah.
need that in order to do walk inside the area, right? But here I have a dog and I can plot other dogs, and I have different energies here. I have one in particular that I think would drive her nuts. So we'll bring him out as well.
Okay.
But in this case, because she's actually doing pretty good about being non-reactive, is like, well, let me try going lower.
Okay.
Okay, so it's not always slam, slam, slam. It's super nuanced. And when I'm not pressed for time, like I just experiment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tap.
Yeah.
Was it the higher increase whining?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you, so what I was saying earlier is making you sensitive to her energy, either through her body language or her vocalization. So her body language, she pivoted behind you. That's that avoidance we were talking about, right? But clearly she's still stimulated.
Right.
So what happens is this, when you said she still whines now, that energy has to go somewhere.
Okay.
Okay, it has to be expelled. Okay, so we call it detoxing. So to give you an example, I had a case where the dog was very attached to the wife.
Okay.
And the owner had his dog on the dog bed, and the wife was away a bit, and the dog kept staring and whining like this. And we kept tapping until he stopped staring at the wife and turned around, but he kept whining.
Oh.
But once we disengaged the staring, the whining became less.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So it'll slowly go down.
Yeah, exactly. And like it's like a 30-minute ordeal before, and we're like at 80s or something like that, right? So here, it's easier for her to disengage, and I'm already thinking we're gonna bump it in a bit.
Okay.
But that's why you're reading both things. For some cases, it's the dog and they're staring and they whine or vocalize, and you correct them and you just let it go. but they're still like this. And it's very black and white. It's like, oh yeah, for sure, that's a big difference. Here, because she's so amped up, you're paying attention to the slow decline. Okay. Now, body language wise, what I'm looking at here, because from her, now she's staring off to the immediate left there for you, and she's staring at something. You see her?
Yeah.
So go and give a tap here. There. Now she turns elsewhere. Okay, now she sees Finn. Right? So now we're going to see what happens. Right, you see how she keeps moving her head? Right, now she looks at Chad. I'm going to let the look at Chad go for a moment because he's not something that stimulates, but he's got her attention. Okay? So you're going to get some very nuanced moments.
Okay.
In the beginning, you're going to make mistakes. In the beginning, you're going to go like, what do I do? Right? And it's best to kind of just pick a topic.
Okay.
Okay? You're not going to get every situation in the beginning. Okay? It's impossible. I get to it quicker because I've done this for 10 years. Okay? And I'm trying to teach you how to be a mini me. Okay? So that
at least one dog.
yeah, for your one dog. That's what matters, right? So if you're stepped to the side, right, and like maybe if you have a neighbor or somebody who can help you with this, and you're just kind of learning, like right now, how do you feel about Malachite?
I feel she's still a little amped, but she's trying to be calm about it.
Sure, but what about her energy?
Oh, on edge, it seems like, especially her ears keep going forward even though she's trying to move it back sometimes.
Sure. Now she, right here, you hear that?
So she's calming down.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's what I was talking about, being sensitive to her energy.
Okay.
Now the reason why she's calming down is because what's going on? Okay, there are dogs here, and the dog's presences are stimulating her. But as she gets comfortable with things how they are right now, she's like this. I start moving with Bane,
She's gonna go
and
back.
go up again.
Okay.
So I'm gonna start doing that now.
Okay.
But like, even though I'm having a conversation with you, I'm tuned into her energy. I'm really listening, and you can just right, like the whole time here. And then she started addressing her. It's been slowly just going lower, and she's not getting so focused. She's actually starting to move her head around and go, wow, there's other things here. Exactly. Now here, we had that stretch of maybe 30 to 45 seconds of silence. Then it's becoming sensitive to like when it starts to spike again.
Okay.
You know? And then capping her there, and then next you know you get 2 minutes of silence.
Okay.
And then she has to, like, when you cap her there, then you get 2.5 minutes of silence, right? Is every time you correct her, you're looking for some kind of change in behavior. Whether it's lower pitch whining, whether it's more space between lines, whether it's what she's focused on to like not focused on, right? All these things is communication. But we're not as tuned into that stuff because we're so used to words.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're like, hey, are you sad? I'm like, no, I feel pretty good. You know, like words would, you know, my body language says one thing, but my words say another thing, you know? So same thing here with her, you're getting tuned into this. So even when you're in a situation in the real world, okay, right, because you saw her head peeked up.
Yeah.
Yes, right?
Right.
So that was that shift.
Okay.
And then you just capped it immediately. Is in the real world, obviously you're gonna have a lot more things going on. And it's learning how to build that awareness where you hear the rollerblader and the skateboarder and the dog tags coming down the block, and then dogs running behind the fence that you don't even see it. Okay? We're so tuned into like headphones or like being on our phones and things like that, is that we've lost this awareness. And she is hyper aware. Okay? So then if you're not as aware as she is, or you know, at least trying to be, she's always gonna be a step ahead of you. Okay? And that's when it's gonna be like seemingly out of nowhere.
I did start walking her without headphones in and stuff. I saw a lot of things talking about that. Like paying attention pretty much to your dog.
Yes. You know, and some clients have dogs where they don't need to, right? Now, me personally, I have one headphone in, and then the side of the dog that one headphone out. You know, if you want to balance. Unless I'm working with like a dog where it's like I need to be full attention, you know. So it could be no headphones for a couple months, and then it's like, oh wow, she's great now. One headphone in, but I still want to have that awareness.
Something to pay attention.
Right. And it's healthy just to be aware as a human anyways.
It's true, it's better for
Yeah,
us.
there's not so nice people out there. So I'm gonna start moving with Bane here. And I'm gonna have you listen or watch for those changes in her behavior, okay?
Should I tap when I see them?
Whenever you feel like something's changing, you go ahead and do your thing. So how do you feel about that?
I felt like that was amazing, actually. She was looking at him, but she didn't seem upset that he was there. She was literally just like,
Sure, I would have tapped.
you would have?
Yes.
Oh, geez.
Because it went like this.
Because she watched him after he went
The
out.
entire, put it this way. Let's say you're walking through a restaurant and you see a person in the restaurant. The entire time you're walking through. How does it make you feel?
Kind of weird, especially if you then like turn around in your chair and like stare at them still.
Yes.
Okay.
So, and you know, because it's all the same stuff. Okay. So if you're ever unsure about something, put yourself in that position.
Okay.
So in this case, I put you in Bane's position where it's like you're just walking, and this person's just like, you know, that's why like glancing is okay,
Okay.
right? Because let's say someone was sitting still and you were just like, you know, at a table, like at a table, and same concept, but they're not like you're not moving, but they're just watching you as you sit at the table, right? After a while, it's like, it gets to a point where, and it doesn't have to be that long,
It's kinda
like
weird.
15, 10 seconds,
Yeah.
where you're like, man, why is this person just staring at me?
Great.
Same thing for her, okay? So, we don't know what the intent is, whether it's like she's too overstimulated when she wants to play, or she's just overstimulated and there's stress upon stress. It's just, you don't go to that extent.
Okay.
The sooner you tap on the remote, the better she's going to be about regulating,
Okay.
self-regulating. Okay. So the way the brain the brain works is, let's say every time I feel stressed, I smoke a cigarette. Okay. Like let's say I start smoking, I get stressed and I have a cigarette, and then 5 hours later something else stresses me out. I have a cigarette. Right. What am I doing here?
Trying to like get rid of your stressor.
Sure. And then what habit am I building?
A bad one.
Yes. Right. I'm building a bad habit. It's like every time I feel on edge, I'm gonna just have a cigarette. And it starts from 1 a day to 2 a day to 5 a day, right?
It's just gonna get worse.
Yes. So every time you give into that habit or that response, you're building a habit. Okay. So for her, the moment she looks and starts staring, and then the longer it goes unchecked, the more of the deeper that habit is being built. Okay.
Okay.
So if I go, I'm going to stop smoking. You know, I can start with, I'm going to go from 5 cigarettes a day to 3 a day. Okay, so that means 2 out of 5, I'm going to just deal with it myself and decline that, right? And then a couple weeks goes by, whatever, I'm going to go down to 2, now 1, now half of 1, now a quarter of 1, now every other day. You know, so I'm countering that habit. Now, the difference is with humans, we're both proactive and reactive.
Okay.
I can consciously make the decision of, I'm going to stop smoking today. Dogs don't do that. Dogs are purely reactive to what's going on within the moment. Okay? So for her brain, okay, when she sees a dog, she locks on and zones in. So if you wait 30 seconds before you tap, she's going to have a 30-second habit.
Okay. And think she can do it for that long.
Correct,
Okay.
because you're not intervening until 30 seconds. So what I want to do is within a second to 2, if that, I'm regulating her for herself.
Okay.
Okay? So then what happens for the dog, it's look, tap, disengage. Okay? So then the next, you do this like, you know, let's say 50 times. On the 51st dog, she's going to look and just disengage herself.
Okay.
Because she's anticipating the hit. Okay? But the hit is what programs the brain to start disengaging. So the only way to teach a dog to self-regulate is by regulating them for them.
Okay.
And then if you're consistent enough and the intensity is correct and all that stuff, you'll start to see the dog disengage themselves.
Okay.
Okay? And it's literally, so I don't know if I told you about my one client, her dog is reactive, right? The second class, she shows up, she steps aside, the dog's walking, and this is her, he goes like this, and when the dog is coming, he goes like this. Okay, and the dog passes, he goes like this.
Hides completely.
Yes, and she didn't have to do anything.
Okay.
But she was so consistent in creating that avoidance that he goes, oh, there's a dog. Right? And then came back out and he was ready.
Okay.
Okay? So, and then we didn't do anything there. So then he learned, oh, if I don't stare or get focused or whatever, nothing happens. And I have other choices.
Right.
That's the thing, right? I don't care what she does, just don't lunge and bark and pull and yank and jump on the leash and all that other stuff, right? That's why, the negative is so important.
Okay.
Because it's negative during those things you're trying to discourage, but no negative when she's doing what you're wanting.
Okay.
Okay?
So that she knows.
And then again, her energy is calming down right now. It's more and more quieter, more space. You see how she fidgeted right there? That's, I bet you that she had a thought. Okay? It literally looks like that.
Okay.
Where she was like, she thinks of it, she's like, no, I got a calf last time. So they kind of fidget around. Yeah, okay. So I'm gonna walk around with Bane, okay, and we're gonna watch that eye contact thing stare.
Okay, and tap if she's staring too long.
Correct. Yeah. So she's not staring at him anymore.
Okay.
But she is following tap there? Yeah, she was tap. She was following with the head. But this is what she was doing. She was like, it's kind of like if your friends were to tell you, like, look but don't look. Does that make sense?
Sneaky.
You know, you're kind of like, you glaze over and like through the peripheral range of your eyes, you're seeing what's going on as you like look around, right? That's what she just did.
Okay.
Okay, because I was looking at her, she had like 90% of that was no eye contact on Bane. It was like looking around Bane. Okay? So, again, yep, you see that look?
Yeah, she's. Should I tap now?
There. Okay. Because she's still following. This is okay. This is okay. This is okay. That's okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Relax that out. There you go. Good. Okay. I'm going to have you go to top on your heel, and then I'll have you walk with her on the outside, meaning you're going to be going around just like this.
Around? Okay, kind of like what you did.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Heel. Is this close enough?
Yeah, and then I'm going to have you slowly close that gap, okay?
Okay. Just get a little closer.
Yep. Keep moving. Does she have hackles on her tail? Or do you ever see that as part of her thing?
Yeah, sometimes I've seen it.
Okay. So her back looks good.
Okay.
It's just that tail.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like in a medium place. Go ahead and keep walking around. You're good.
She seems pretty amped. She's staring more and starting to pull more.
So yeah, so when you see that cap, if you see her head coming across you can capture that as well.
Okay.
But you just keep moving forward. Because she's looking across you to stare at Bane, and you're just telling her not to do that, okay? Yep. Good. Now I'm gonna have you flip and have her on the inside.
Oh boy, okay.
Good. Walk around.
I just need to prepare mentally for that too.
You got it. And you're gonna start out wider, and then you're gonna slowly close it.
Start out wider, get a little closer.
Yep.
Okay. Just make sure I have a good grip and everything.
Yep. So you can tap these side glances as well. Okay.
She seems like she's trying to get away from him.
Yeah, that's normal. Now, if she were to hug to your right side, I would actually let that happen at the moment.
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead and squeeze it a little bit. Yeah. Get a little closer. A wee bit closer. Yep, yep, there you go. Good. You good?
I did tap him multiple times for
Yep.
that. Yeah.
That was correct.
Okay.
Now I'm actually seeing something, but I'm letting you do your thing for now. Now go ahead and, on this last little walk around, I'm going to stop. like right there, okay?
Okay, facing you or away from you?
Facing, so you'll be facing that way. Okay, so yeah, now come in a little bit close. Close, close, close. Well, right there. Right there. Good. So, could you see what was going on with her?
It seemed like she no longer wanted to attack him, and like she kind of just wanted to smell him.
Give it tip. When he wagged his tail and looked towards her, she did a tiny, tiny little forward. Okay? So what was happening is, and this is actually how we go about socializing as well. Because I know you said she's sociable if you like do things correctly, right? So one of the things is when we have a reactive dog and it's like overstimulation, it's kind of like when you get something new, just that initial like excitement about it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know, and you're like, oh wow, but then after you have it for like a couple of days or whatever, it's kind of like, it's just another phone. Like a new iPhone, right? A new iPhone, I'm so excited. Then like a week goes by and it's just any other phone.
Right.
So for her, think about it the same way. She sees a dog, that excitement goes up, right? But she can't contain it. So if you go from that excitement into the immediate like dog to dog stuff, probably not going to vote well.
Right.
So what we do here is to desensitize. You're kind of getting her over that initial excitement.
Okay.
And you're walking around, and her tail actually went from being middle to up to middle to more down.
Okay.
Towards those last few laps. Okay?
Which is more relaxed.
Exactly. So, tail doesn't always mean happy, by the way, when it's up and wagging.
I noticed that.
Yes.
Which is surprising.
Yeah, that's a super common misconception. Tail can be up and bite you, So, yep. There we go. So yeah, her tail was up and stiff, which is a little bit of tension. Then it went down middle, then it started to go down middle, down. So you see how you fidgeted right there? So like that little tiny bit of movement is something I would expect that would stimulate her.
Okay.
Like even the smallest little things can make her go 0 to 7. Okay? And that's where you coming in and capping her each time is so important.
Okay.
Because she's not gonna, when you're slowing her down, so instead of going 0, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, going 0, 1, 2, 3, because you're helping her put brakes on.
Okay.
Okay, so the more you put those brakes on in her brain, the longer it's going to take her to stimulate, the easier it is for you to de-escalate her.
Okay.
Okay? So now what I'm going to have you, just so you're ready, I'm going to now move with Benny. Okay, now we're fairly close to each other. So my assumption is we're really close, I'll move with Benny. So it's not just the movement and the energy, but also the fact that the movement and the energy being so close in proximity.
Okay.
Okay?
Should I still leave it at the same level?
Yep. 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 Yeah, you're good. So there's a tiny little forge when I move with Bane.
Right.
Right? So that was like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Kind of, yeah. There. But can you hear the energy, the difference? Yep.
If she's whining and moving her head up, that's
The
okay.
moving the head up and looking, this is thinking. Okay, this is her going like, what am I supposed to do?
Okay.
Because really what you're telling her to do with the remoting is to calm down. Right? And she's got to decipher what that means, like because there's no way to explain it to her. There's no way to say, like, when you feel this, please calm down and stop the whining. She has to get the tap, and your tap, that's why it's so, in this part, consistent that you're tapping when you hear intensity, because then she's going to think, oh, the tapping is because I'm getting too riled up. Okay? So like in the beginning, the brain's going to be confused. She's like, I'm sitting right next to you. Like we've been doing this for a couple of weeks, like this is where I'm supposed to be. So then if she gets too out of line, I would tap her back into the correct position to tell her like, no, this is correct.
Okay.
It's what you're doing inside your brain that's incorrect.
So when she does this avoidance, I should...
This is okay.
Okay.
But like, let's say she ended up from like here, this is okay, this is okay. But let's say as I was tapping, like maybe she jumped back like that.
Okay.
Okay?
It was like away from
That's a little too far. Okay? Now let's say you're walking with her and you're going this way, she sees a dog and she were to go over to your right side, that's actually good.
Okay.
So we have obedience and then we have behavior. Behavior always supersedes obedience. It's always the most important thing because obedience can always be taught or retaught at any point. That's a mechanical thing, right? But for behavior, you're only going to have that high pitch. You're only going to have so many opportunities to work with, as you go about your life with her.
Right.
So if I'm walking with her and she moves to my right side, obedience-wise, that is incorrect.
Okay.
right? But she's going, look, I see this dog, we're at the stage where we're walking past dogs, for example, and she's like, I can't handle this the way this is happening, so I'm gonna go over here, okay? So that she's avoiding conflict. So I go, you know what, that's wrong obedience-wise, but I don't care about that, because I'd rather you do the right thing than the wrong thing.
She has started to do that with the one dog that barks at her, that's not as aggressive as the other one. She'll step further away from me when we're walking by in that particular part of the alleyway. Like she's trying to stay away, because she knows,
Yes.
like, I'm gonna do something and then I'm gonna get punished.
Yeah. So then what I do is I actually go with the dog
Okay.
in the beginning. You can, like, and it's easiest from behind. So if you're walking, they come over, it's easiest to grab here and just pull over.
Okay.
Then once you're done, and you continue your movement, once you're done, you just come back and then you're here again. Okay. But the other thing that you can do is give space.
Okay.
So like if I have a barking dog behind a fence here, like me personally, I wouldn't walk my dog, force my dog to walk immediately next to that fence.
Okay.
So the human version of that would be like in the movies when they have the prisoners walking down the prison line, and everybody's in the bars, behind the bars, like screaming and reaching out and stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
I would imagine that feels pretty bad, right? There's a lot of anxiety going on there. Same thing for your dog, right? So you're walking her behind a fence, and I feel like forcing the dog that close behind threat or next to threat puts him under a lot of stress.
Okay.
So you can go off to the grass, give her a bit more distance.
Okay.
So it's yes, I expect a lot from my dogs, and I want very good discipline. But at the same time, I go like, well, you know what? I probably wouldn't like this either.
Okay.
So you're doing good, and I'm gonna do this as a means of like helping you do even better.
Okay.
So yeah, it's not always forcing certain things. Now in the beginning, if I have a dog that's super reactive and the owner needs every opportunity, in the beginning I may do it just to give the owner practice. But then realistically speaking, I wouldn't do that as a continued thing because then at some point the dog's like, well shit, this is why I don't like dogs behind fences.
Right.
Okay. So by giving that space, you're taking the lead and you're saying like, look, I know there's a stressor here for you, so instead I'm gonna give off some 4 to 5 feet. We walk past it, back on the sidewalk, and she goes, okay, cool. I don't always have to worry about these situations. Mom knows how to take that lead and make it easier for us. Okay? Questions about that?
No.
All right, so I'm gonna try walking around again.
That'd be a time to talk.
Yeah, no. There you go. Just walk right there. So that sound is just frustration.
Okay.
Yeah, she's trying to deal with what's going on. Good. Now, do you know what the difference is, or what the difference was in that 2 or 3 walk around I just did?
She did more of the turning her head up and away thing.
Okay. Yep. What else? Look at her posture. Do you know how it started?
No.
She was on her head.
Oh.
She was like this.
She was.
She was actually more relaxed, which, because we were talking for a bit. So she got more relaxed, but when I started moving the vein, and you had capture, went from relaxed to more of an alert position.
Okay.
So then that little subtlety, because like this, sitting down for a dog is like chill, right? And then lay down is the ultimate chill, but when we're dealing with reactive dogs, I don't allow them to lay down. Okay, because then if they do that, you have to give them more slack, right? So then if she decided to be reactive, now she's got this much slack as opposed to this much slack.
Okay. That
Okay.
makes sense.
Yeah, so that's why I always insist that the dog be in a sitting position, because it gives the owner more control and less range of motion for the dog. Okay? So let me have you go and start walking around Malachite again.
Okay, which, this way?
Yeah, we'll start on the outside, then work inside. I'm sleeping.
Close enough.
Yep. So her tail, I'm doing a little bit better than I was earlier. Still up more, but it's better than what I was earlier.
She keeps, I'm tapping her, but she's still peeking around my leg.
Okay, let's try going to 50.
I feel like this thing is either super hard to move or just moves like it goes off.
What you can do is you can take those little rubber bands and you just put one around the base of the dot, and it'll help slow it down a bit.
Nice.
Okay, go ahead and turn inwards when you're ready. Yep. That was a long stare when you approached. Yeah. Right. And come a little closer, Kip. So now the tail's more down.
It's hard to see all this.
Yeah, I know. Good. There you go. Yep, there you go. Good. Do one more walk around.
Keep doing better at steering this.
Yep, good. And then slow to stop there. That's good. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna release Bane.
Okay.
Well, you can't hear me. I always forget. Yeah, but you know,
And she's immediately,
right, so you see how my energy just all of a sudden starts to trigger her? Hey, buddy. Deep balls. Okay. So it's not just his energy rate, it's my energy too. I'm gonna walk with him a little bit more loosely,
Okay.
but yeah, I'm gonna keep him on your way first. So I'm just letting him kind of just give off any energy. But you can see how she's really conflicted here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And now her energy's targeting towards me. Now, I would cap her energy with both dogs and humans
Okay.
because she's just not good at
Okay.
self-regulation, okay?
She's not.
Yeah, and at least for the beginning, and then when you start to see like, wow, like she's doing much better, then you can start giving little leniencies,
Okay.
like let's say with like humans and stuff. But in some cases, so my rules change per dog. Every home is different, every dog is different, every handler's ability is different, every problem that I'm dealing with those dogs is going to be different. Is in some cases, like the more extreme ones, like her reactivity is up there, okay, her stimulation levels are up there. Is I make it super strict.
Okay.
So I go, we're not going to have any variables, okay, which is going to have constants. I don't allow this, I don't allow this, I don't allow this, blah, 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 right?
Okay.
And then I go, where's she at? And then let's say when we wrap up and you're like, wow, like, this is really good, but do I have to always be this way? And I go, well, what we're going to start with is we won't regulate her so much with humans,
Okay.
okay? And then you start to dial back, and then you might find, oh crap, her dog reactivity is back,
Okay.
okay? So then in your case, in order to have that, in order to have that kind of baseline energy for her, you have to be that strict.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So if she was like focusing on you specifically, and
Yeah, because when I was petting, it wasn't Bane, it was me.
Okay, so I
'Cause she was
stop that too.
correct.
Okay.
Okay, it's not going to make her not like people.
Okay.
Okay, you're just saying like, look, he's not talking to you.
Right.
He's talking to Bane. Right? But she's over here like, well, what about me? And you're saying you don't matter right now. Okay. And we're making it super strict with everything. So then you see, where do we end up with, right? Or we end up at. And then you're like, man, this is great. This is what I wanted. And I go, cool. Now we're going to start to give her back these little leniencies one at a time. Okay? Because if you try to do everything at once, you don't know if it was one particular thing that caused her reactivity to come back, if it was everything, or if it was certain things. Okay? So if I go, ignore when like let's say she jumps on people, right, when they say hi, and you allow her to do that. And then right after that, you start noticing she's becoming part of the deal with reactivity-wise.
Okay.
And clearly she can't have that. We take that off the menu, okay? And then we might, maybe people baby talk to her, you know, and she gets excited, and you allow that to happen. And then you like over a couple weeks, you're like, reactivity is the same. It's not gonna worse. Then she can have that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So you're just kind of tweaking what her rules are going to be according to what she gives you.
Okay.
So in my book, dogs, most people just give their dogs everything as opposed to making them work for things. So even like affection, okay? I'm not huge on affection as is, but when I do give affection to dogs, it's because they... Sure. There we go.
This seems pretty focused.
She's pretty focused, but she does look relaxed. Like her eyes, like I don't see a mean glare. I see like a relaxed, like who are you kind of look. Okay. Like even the way her tail's wagging, like seems like a looser wag. Yeah. And you see how you look down at her? Did you see that change? What was the change?
She got really happy, looked up at me, kind of.
And what else?
Looked like she wanted to move. Oh.
And you're actually correct. That was the move. And what else?
I'm not sure what else.
Her tail went like this, and then when you looked at her,
Immediately.
like this. Okay. So, but you see how aware I am of like all these things?
Yeah.
So once you get used to it, you're like, holy crap, like wow, like that's like you will start to see the nuances.
Okay.
Okay. So that tail wag when you look at her kind of helps you interpret how she views you.
Okay.
Okay. Now I always want to represent calmness. Okay. When I greet my dogs, like they're happy to see me. They'll come out, their tails wagging, but it's a calm, passive, happy. Okay. But I can also build intensity. But when I do build intensity, I always bring them back to back down. So we start calm, we end calm. The middle is where the excitement is. People tend to start excited, be excited, and end excited. Okay, like, see you buddy, going to work, right? And then when they're back, hey buddy, back from work. And then while they're home with their dog, let's play. And it's just stimulation after stimulation after stimulation.
Okay. Not good for her.
Well, definitely not her.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, I'm not saying you can't love your dog or be affectionate. I'm just saying choose when you do so. Okay. And if she were to lie down here, I would let you give it to her because it's controlled context. I don't plan on moving. Okay. So her association with you right now is party time.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm sure maybe you have friends. Like I have friends, and I have I know there's some guys that are very disciplined. There's some guys that are just I don't want to say they're like party animals, but they're more of like the outgoing, like, hey, let's do something. Like that's how I kind of, if I was to categorize them, like I can tell you who's who. Okay. So for her, in her mind, you're that party person. Okay. Because as soon as you looked at her, it was like just more excitement, right? And you can't be the party person and the authoritarian at the same time.
Okay.
That makes sense? Like cops are here to, reinforce laws and to regulate people if they're speeding and stuff like that. If they're to be like hanging out, like being buddies with everybody, nobody would take them serious.
Right.
Okay, that's how it works. Okay. So we just make some adjustments here. So like let's say, if you ever come home or whenever you leave, just be indifferent.
Okay.
Okay. If I come home and sit on the couch, my dogs don't just jump on my lap.
Right.
They may come and sit down and look at me and are we gonna get affection? And I'll ignore them and then they'll get up and walk away. Okay? And then I might come later, I'm like, all right, get over here. And they'll come walking over and I'll pet them. And then I'm like, nah, but it was on my terms. Okay? Like little things like that can make a difference. Okay? When you're petting her, not just petting her for being cute. Okay? Petting her because she did something. Like let's say, for example, I'm not sure if I actually have you do this, but for example, let's say a very reactive dog walks by. She doesn't respond. Okay, she's a little bit whiny or whatever, and then the dog passes and you're like, good. Right?
Okay.
But it would have to be that, we got dogs coming in, by the way, just so you know.
Okay.
We are rewarding the fact that she has passive energy.
Okay.
Yep. Right? Yep. Wait a moment.
I feel like I'll have to go somewhere.
So go ahead and look at her. Don't worry about these guys, okay? Do what you think you have to do. Okay. Right there. Okay. There it is. There. So now you had a pretty good shift there. Hold it here.
Okay. So I stay facing this way still?
But you can hit it so that you're good. Yeah. You see those shifts in her posture, right? Yeah. There you go. Yeah. Yeah. There you go. You can see how she's making decisions. Now, yeah. Right. Better. So the better. So that vocalization, that's just her having to get it out. But she is disengaging. Yeah. Yeah. There. Yeah, she did that on her own there. Right. Yeah. Okay. So could you recognize when 60, that 60 was the appropriate number for what's going on?
Because she like kind of gives into her whole body when that happens.
She started to move. Yeah, she started to give a little, right? So once I saw that give, I was like, cool. Like it's within about 2 to 3 taps, you're getting her to just make decisions. Okay, so that's how I could see that 60 was close to where we needed it to be. And then, so that's why it's so easy if you're stationary, is because if you're not moving, she's technically, like, if you look at Bane, when I'm just standing here, he's just here, right? Like, he's not giving off any real energy, okay? So it's very clear to me that nothing's on his mind right now. Yep. There we go. But for her, because she keeps fidgeting and stuff, you can see the difference between when she's engaged and when you're disengaging her. Okay, there you go. You got it. Good. Right, just relax. Good. Let's try 63. Yep. There. So yeah. There you go. Now I look at what she shifted to, right? So then, see how she's looking the other way? Yeah. Now I'm going to have you stay where you are. Lightly pull forward, yeah. So that was like a complete movement. Did you see that? Where she got a little too far off. Yeah. And then you also can't see her anymore. Right. So then I'm like, yeah, get over here. Okay. So she shifted and completely looked back that way, and I'm going like, well, what's over there to get your attention? Okay. And right now, it's actually these guys. It looks like just them moving around. Yep. There. Okay. But that's learning to recognize what number is going to be the appropriate one within that situation. Okay. Here, we took our time. So it's building your eye to learn to read within the second. Okay. To go like 50, yep, not going to work, 55, yep, not going to work, 65. And I jump. So I went from 55 to 87.
Oh, geez, okay.
In those 2 to 3 seconds. Okay. Because he was like, I don't want to sit down anymore. And I go, you're going to have to. And you saw how you resisted. Yeah. So I went from 55 to 87 within 2 to 3 seconds, right? Because I could already see that what I was at wasn't going to motivate him to correct the issue. Right. Okay? So it's just building your eye to do the same thing with Malachite. Okay? Questions so far?
No, I don't think so.
Okay? Let me think here.
You said she was one of the more reactive dogs as far as the spectrum goes.
Yeah, but through stimulation.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a difference between reactive dogs and because like wantonly like to do harm, and others are just like so amped up.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. So reactive.
Be nice to them.
Correct. Reactivity doesn't always mean mean.
Okay.
Okay. I always try to tell that to people. Like it could be a dog throwing a tantrum. It could be a dog legitimately saying like, I'm gonna kill you. If another dog just want to get rid of him away. okay? So her stimulation is up there, okay? And that's just fueling all the reactivity stuff, okay? So it's just helping her to regulate all that energy, okay? Let me put this guy back.
Why does he even have a muzzle on? He seems so chill.
Oh, right?
Yeah.
We do it as precaution. He's not actually too social,
Okay.
especially if it's an unlimited meal. Yeah, you can place him. Let me try one more stuff here, okay? And it's just do your best with what's going on right there. So this is Lex. Okay. So you can see how she's excited because I'm bringing her out and stuff. But you see how it's just like a passive.
Very chill.
Exactly. Yep. Up. Lex. Yep. 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 So here, another thing that you can do is like, if, let's say it's like, sit. Let's say there was too much going on within there's too much going on within the moment, just because of her energy. You can get more power through to a faster rhythm. Okay, so if it's like, oh, I can't turn it down, that's where I go tap, 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 tap. So it's like being punched in the same spot multiple times.
What is the continuous do? Because I did that on accident once. And then, yeah, freaked out.
Continuous is up to 12 seconds if you hold it that long.
Okay.
But if you just tap
Yeah.
it's a little bit punchier than a normal nip.
I felt that. It was just because I was trying to do it quick.
Yeah. I always, like, I don't ever feel bad even if it's an accident. Simply because if she didn't have this issue, we wouldn't be here.
That's true.
You know? When it comes to like the accidental overhits, you never want to try to console because then you negate yourself. Okay, so like a cop doesn't say like, hey, I'm sorry, I'm gonna give you a ticket. It's like, here's your ticket.
You fucked up.
Yeah, exactly, right? That's on you.
Okay.
So it happens, but as best as possible, refrain from, you know. But here, just bringing out Lex and changing things up. Initially, she's having issues. Lex is not liking her energy.
Yeah, she's being a jerk.
Lex.
Not really
Right.
stopping.
Right. Right there. Right there. Yeah. That little grumble is just frustration. Yeah, even Lex. I don't know if you heard that.
Yeah,
The little, yeah. Lex is not liking her energy. Okay.
keep me away.
Yeah, so Lex is pretty chill and laid back. But like, you know, I'm not just reading your dog, I'm reading her as well. And she's telling me like,
So she's super nervous.
yeah. Yep. You're good. Good. Because I actually felt her grumble through my leash.
Oh.
Yeah. So then here, yeah, go ahead and call her number. Sure. Yep. Yep. Like here, we're not rushed.
Okay.
Okay. outside, it's a little bit more rushed because you're trying to get it to resolve before, before that situation passes. Okay. There you go. Better. And then that I would allow. Okay? So as you complete, like earlier, I was like, the dog completely away. Okay, so 70, just those 4 levels, you know, becoming sensitive to like, oh wow, like, it doesn't have to be 40 to 90, you know? And there's, and as you learn more, like earlier with Bane, I was like, I'm 55 to 87 within seconds, is because I already know, I've known Bane for like a while now, that I already knew where to go to, and I went up 30 levels to fix that problem real quick. Okay? Questions?
No. Should I come back to you? So should I talk and when she's like still really kind of growing with it and put it and looking up, but still like grumbling, growling?
You can experiment.
Okay.
So let's say you break the focus and she's looking at you, she's letting you go because she's doing it, but it's got to go somewhere.
Okay.
That's why I'm like, you're looking for that shift. It might be she's still looking. Tap, 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 tap. There we go. That's okay. There we go. Because something over there got her attention.
Okay.
So you had to flip it the other way. So it went from not caring about here to caring about there, so then you have to go the opposite way. Oh, this is going to be weird because we're going to put dogs in there. So, so like let's say she's staring at something, you tap, and she stops staring but she's still grumbling. It's because she's still processing. In other cases, she'll stop grumbling, but she might still kind of be looking in that general direction. You see what I'm saying? You're disengaging some part of the brain. Then I go, what happens next? Okay, so like earlier, it gradually starts to go down because the situation was the same. But then once we change the situation,
Right back up.
yes, okay, and that's the hard part about life is because you're going to get a lot of changing situations, and that's where like, you know, just kind of confronting it and trying to, how do you say, address it head on helps progress faster, okay?
So this will eventually, like, make it so she doesn't immediately go to 100 every single time. Like, well, I have to do this process, like, forever, basically.
Oh, so that's a good question.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
She knows.
Okay.
Okay, how far you're willing to go is a big part of it. So like, let's say I've had dogs where I'll tell the owner, like, you can stop it, but you got to go to 127.
Okay.
And then if you get it to stop, right? But then the owner goes, Jesse, I don't want to do that to my dog every time. Then they go, then you're stuck here.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So that's why taking advantage of every situation. So I have another client right now, very reactive dog. And she already emailed me after one class saying like, oh, I took a walk, like I drove my dog to the park where there's no dogs to avoid the situation because I felt bad for the dog. And I go,
Then that's not gonna help.
that's not gonna help. Yeah, I'm like, if you want the result fast, you have to just confront it, you know? So I'm not saying going out and just like beeline for dogs, but it's like, I'm just going for walks and every time they have the opportunity, I'm gonna utilize that opportunity, okay? And then that's gonna give you your baseline of like where she's at. So in like, essentially 3 weeks, we went from blowing up all the time to like whining, blowing up when the other dog's blowing up in other situations, and I go, good. It's not a whole, like not 80% turnaround, but it's at least a chunk of it, okay? And then we just continue to confront it and then see what else we can get from it, okay? Other questions?
No.
So let me go put up Lex here, and I'll be back to help you out.